Hey guys, it's Come4MC here again. Welcome to our 11th LBP tutorial. This is a long one, so I'm going to have to split it into a couple parts. The first thing we're going to talk about is ordered inputs. What I mean when I say ordered inputs is we're going to create a system that recognizes if the player has hit the correct sequence of inputs. And what we're going to use for inputs in this demonstration is just a few grab pads. I call them grab pads. It's just a piece of material with a grab switch on them. And if I zoom in, you'll see that I have just exactly that. It's just some stickered dissolve with a grab switch on it. Okay, so these will provide our inputs for the system, and we're going to create a way to recognize if the player has hit blue, green, red, or blue. And if they haven't, we're going to reset our system. Okay, so the player will come along and they'll start grabbing pads or whatever, and if they hit the correct sequence, blue, green, red, blue, it's going to activate whatever it is we want it to activate. If they don't hit that sequence, we want it to reset on the wrong button press. So if I hover up here, you'll see that I've done a bit of legwork to set this up, because even if you notice with my nice organization here, it's kind of a mess. Okay, and I use a lot of these nodes just to organize things. I was hoping to make it clearer for you guys, and I made things color-coded. If you're not sure how to make a node, it's as simple as just copying a wire and placing it where there's not something there. And then you can just continue wiring up wherever you need to go. Okay, so that's what I've done to organize myself here. Now if you look, these grab switches are wired into my circuit board via a counter. It's a 1 count counter, and it's wired directly to its own reset. If you recognize this from our other video, it is a pulse generator. It will create a pulse signal which is on for one render frame. So it's on for just one frame and then it'll turn off. We need to do that in order for this application to work, because we're switching things very quickly and we're providing some very quick checks. Now the selector is the heart of this ordered input. It's got some nice properties that make this entirely possible. Now I have 5 selector ports here, because we have our 4 correct entries, and then the last one will be you've entered the code correctly. And you'll see that I just outlined this node here, and it wires into our override for our selector, so this will eventually be our reset for the system, so if we get the code wrong. So if I follow this first selector node down, you'll see that it wires into this AND gate. So it's one of the conditions for the AND gate. The other condition will come from the correct button press. So if you press the correct button, go away, inanimacy. If you press the correct button, it will create a positive signal through this purple wire and override the selector to state 2. Okay, so it will override to state 2, and our second wire will then light up to our yellow AND gate. And again, we'll get the correct button press is the other condition for this yellow AND gate, and that will, again, the signal will go through the yellow wire, and it will override to the selector's third input state. Okay, so you'll kind of see the pattern that we're working with here. We work through this selector until we get all the way to the end. So again, we go through the green AND gate. If the conditions are met there, then it will go to the 4th selector state. Okay, and we continue that until we're all the way at the end. So you could extend this to be however long you would want, and then when we get to the last one, it'll wire into a counter. So I'm just using a counter as a permanent switch, and for the purposes of this demonstration, I'll just wire it up into this piece of hologram material. So when you enter the correct code, it will light up this hologram material. Okay, but that'll only happen when you enter the right code. But if you notice, when I drop in here and I start grabbing these things, nothing happens. Right? There's nothing going on. And so we have to make sure that we set up something we have to set up our inputs here. So again, our code starts with blue, so the first thing we'll wire up is blue. And that will satisfy the conditions of the first AND gate, which is the purple one. Okay, and then we go green, so if we look blue, green, so we'll take our output from the green pulse generator there into our yellow one, and then we go red and blue. And apparently my aim is pretty bad right now. So we'll wire up lastly the blue one. So now our system in its very basic setup is ready to go. So now if I hit blue, you'll notice that it'll jump to the second selector state, green for third, red, and then finally blue. So we've progressed correctly through the sequence. Okay? But I haven't set up a reset yet. The way that I'm going to handle resetting is I'm going to make the system always try to reset, but I'm going to make it so it doesn't reset when you hit the correct button. I do that for a reason, just by virtue of how I set the system up. So I'm going to wire all of these inputs into an OR gate, and this will be the condition of when you grab a button, it will try to reset, assuming you haven't hit the correct button. So all these are wired into an OR gate, which will be one of the conditions for my AND gate. And if we follow this wire from the AND gate, it goes to the first selector state, which is our override back to the reset. Okay. Now the other condition from the AND gate is going to be, have I hit the correct button sequence or have I not? And so I've set up an OR gate inverted, so the output has been inverted, and I'll wire that all the way over to my AND gate. So you'll notice that's always on, so as soon as I press a button, this will reset. Okay, it'll satisfy the conditions of that AND gate, and my selector will reset. But I don't want it to reset when I hit the correct button, so that's why I use an OR gate here. So if I hit the correct button for the first one, it's going to create a positive signal through this purple wire. So I'm going to wire that wire right up to this OR gate. And I'll do the same thing for yellow, green, and blue. The reason I do this is if any of those inputs are true, it's going to disable this signal that goes over to our AND gate, which will reset it. Okay? And if I hit the correct one, it'll look like this, and when it goes over to the AND gate, the conditions are not met and it won't reset. Okay, so I just set that back to inverted and our system is ready to go. So now, just to show you, if I enter the correct code, and I'll make a rewind point here, because I'm going to rewind. So if I hit the correct code, it still works exactly as it should. And there we go. So our system of not resetting when we hit the right button, it works. So now let's see what happens if I hit the wrong button. Nothing happens. But if I hit the right buttons, say I get 2 of them right, and then I hit the wrong one, so instead of hitting red I hit blue, you'll notice that it will reset, which is exactly what we're going for in the system. Okay, so reset back to 1, and we can just start the code over. So I can go 3 in, and then hit the wrong button, so instead of blue I'll hit green, and there it reset. But I can still go through and hit the right button if I want it, or the right sequence if I wanted to. Just like so. Okay, so it works. Everything in this works, and we're good to go. Now, you can extend this to any number of inputs that you would want. So I could create, for example, a 4th input, which would be the yellow grab pad or something. So all I would have to do is make a copy of my pulse generator here and just copy and paste that down. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll actually do that. I'll actually paste that down, and I'm going to make this one yellow. So I'll just make a copy of one of these, and I'll make this one yellow. So I'll paste that down, get out a yellow sticker, just so we can have it make visual sense. And then for some reason I don't have a yellow circle sticker, so I have to use the one that's really close to it, the rounded yellow circle sticker. Okay, and then I'll just paste that down for a visual reference and wire that into our pulse generator. And then we'll make that our last button sequence, or last button of our sequence. So we'll just replace the second blue one with a yellow one. So that's our 4th one, and we'll wire the yellow right up to the 4th one there. Okay, so I didn't change much to the system, I just added an extra button. And now if I grab blue, green, red, and yellow, there we go. That's our new button sequence, and it does recognize that as the correct code. Okay, so our system is basically complete. There's one more thing I wanted to show you guys, but I'm going to have to split the video. So when I hover over here, I'm going to cut it, and I'll come back with part 2. So see you then, and we'll talk about some other things. Later.